So let's jump into trailers. So we have kind of an interesting dichotomy going right now between the production and the orders. Not a dramatically different situation than we're seeing in the Class 8, but it's certainly something that we haven't seen in this segment of the business for a while, and for a few years. So it's certainly worth talking about. One of the things Ian mentioned is, put a slide in there, tell people about basically why you. I didn't do it, but I'll give you the quick thumbnail. Started out in the industry at Fruhoff Trailer. Moved from there as a market research manager, but was actually more involved with a team that kind of kept the lights on. We were a crisis management team trying to keep them out of bankruptcy. We managed, but it happened later. Went from there to a commercial vehicle component supplier, major supplier in the trailer products business, product manager for suspensions, axles, tire inflation systems. Also had product management experience for the Polk registration system. So I've kind of had, the client hat as well as the provider hat here for all of you, and I think that's what I kind of bring to the party is the client perspective. So let's talk about the industry, talk about where we are right now, production-wise, current orders, and by the way, I will be able to show you the July prelims. We'll be releasing those tonight. They have not hit the wire yet, but we do have a number for July. Talk about GH2 a little bit, and then talk about the forecast. While it's a trailer presentation, going to talk about kind of Class 8 as setting the foundation. We heard things earlier today about a dramatic spread in the market. Build versus the weak order demand coming off of some of these cycle peaks into a 2020 that's going to be a lot softer. It's kind of interesting. We've gone through a year where early in this year there were fleets that were scrambling for more production slots, and at least on the OEM side, trailer side, OEMs weren't willing to take the orders. How things have changed over a few months now that the order boards have opened up. No one's really come to the party. And when I switch to the pattern here for the commercial trailer business, it's not a whole lot different. The stories are pretty much the same. Production is at record levels. We've still got very weak orders, very high inventories. The inventories did jump up again in July after we had a bit of a pause in June, kind of an end of a quarter breather as everybody was trying to get the red tags out and the completed inventory off out of the backyard. We're going to come off of cyclical peaks into 2020. 2020 is still not going to be a bad year, but it's certainly not going to be the kind of year we've seen over the last 2 or 3. Fleets wanted to place orders early in the year. OEMs didn't want to accept them. We're now at a point where OEMs would love to get some orders on the books, but fleets are kind of reticent. They're sitting back, trying to consider what do they really need. The other thing that's happened as this year's gone on is cancellations have begun to surge, and the timing of those cancellations are interesting, because what we have to think about is what is the backlog, how long does it go? There's cancellation penalties implemented, so we have, when are those cancellations actually impacting the backlog? So for June, we had the weakest net order month since September of 2009, even though some OEs actually did open their order boards in June. We heard comments about discussions with fleets, but there were no commitments. The backlogs have now fallen for 6 straight months, and when we get the July numbers, it'll be 7 straight months. But production continues at a record pace. We're kind of burning this candle at real hard right now. We've had 6 of the top production months in the industry since August of last year, and we closed June with a backlog to build of 5.4 months, and it's December. We've been in the tail end of the backlog to build horizon has been in December for the entire second quarter. We just can't get it over the hump. We can't get it into 2020. So let's take a look at, three things that are kind of troubling. That inventory number I talked about. I was taking a look at our inventory numbers today and our charts. The inventory number is going to go up fast enough or high enough that we're actually going to have to rescale our charts this month. It should be over 30,000. New orders, again, not a great number, but the cancellations just peel back that number very quickly, and that gets us to a net of roughly 6,000 last month, or 6,000 in June. It'll be higher in July, but not dramatically so given where we were this time last year. There's just no real serious fleet investment interest because of uncertainty. Uncertainty just breeds delay, and that's where we're sitting right now. But it does kind of set us up for the potential of build rate adjustments as we move through the rest of the year, in the tail end particularly, and kind of sets us up for a weak foundation to start 2020. Here's the slide from our last webinar. Don't know how many of you listen in on those, but the story continues from what I talked about then. How solid is the Q4 backlog? It's pretty soft. Why are you going to book into 2020 if you're concerned about the last quarter of the year? While dry vans and reefers do barely extend into next year, the rest of the vocational market is obviously a lot shorter than that, but production levels are maxed out. Here's our carrier database, truckload carrier database, net income versus new trailer orders. Here's the Q1 numbers. Why do fleets order trailers? Well, first off, they got to be able to pay for them, but they also have to need them, from a capacity standpoint. We've seen the softening rates, which is obviously what's caused this carrier income number to slide. It's still positive there, but the gains are gone. So weaker year-over-year financial comps are on the way, and we just released recently our Q2 carrier database, and sure enough, we've now thrown our first negative year-over-year income number since back in 2017, 2016. So the fleets are obviously seeing the financial pressure, and their excitement is now apprehension. So from a timing issue, from a planning process issue, this is really lousy timing because they're all starting to get into their 2020 order cycles, their planning cycles. And the potential is volume and pricing. And they're really going to sit down and take a hard look at what equipment do we really need. Because here we are sitting in early August. We're producing at very strong levels. So we do have capacity that's still going to enter the market as we move through the year. A similar pattern, a similar story that you heard earlier today on the Class 8 side. Inventory remains an issue. Here's the chart I was telling you. We had a little bit of a respite in June from a factory inventory standpoint, and this is a factory level number. We do not receive information on trailer dealer inventories. That doesn't mean we don't hear stories about trailer dealer inventories, and the indication are that they are up very dramatically. So the whole system is kind of overloaded from an inventory standpoint. And from a factory situation here, are these slow deliveries and pickups, or is there more going on? I think there's maybe some more going on, that some of these trailers, they're being produced and maybe they don't all have homes. The other thing is that this number does not include red tags. So expect the surge in July once the numbers are finalized. My guess is that this chart that now tops out at 30,000 is going to have to top out at 35,000 because we're going to be off the top of the scale. Here's that backlog to build information that I talked about. Here's backlog to build from December through June, where it started and where it ended. So basically from January through March, we were all just kind of dancing in November. We got into the second quarter, we got into December, and we couldn't get out. That last bar on the bottom is an indication of what the production planning period is. Basically, 12 to 16 weeks out, if you're on the production schedule, you're getting a trailer. You may want to cancel it, but you're getting a trailer, unless you're a really good customer and you can talk a story. But that's kind of the indication of where, how firm the production schedule is, and then any of the cancellations are occurring past that bar. So let's take a look. Let's add July now. Don't have the final numbers yet. Gets real close to the end of December. It might edge into 2020, but if it does, it's not going to edge in very far. And the only reason it's going to extend is because the build rate came down, not because the backlog increased. Backlog to build. The numerator is not growing at this point. We're not getting increases in backlog. It's the build rate that's going to slow down potentially. Here's the chart that I generate when we do put out both our preliminary report and our final report press release. And this is June, roughly 6,000 units net trailer orders in June. You can see where the pattern of the last 2 years are. That orange line for 2018, we're now starting to come up to some points with some really tough comps. Some of these percentages, year-over-year percentages in the next few months are going to be sobering. July 19 it's better, but still not great. Looks like we were just a hair under 10,000 units for July from a net order standpoint. It's a nasty balance. We're 65% better in June, easy comp, but we're 66% below a year ago. That's where I'm saying we're going to start seeing some percentages that, when they become headline percentages, are going to get people's attentions. Now, the one thing is that cancellations did ease from what we saw in June and what we've seen in the prior months before that. But the issue is all the cancellations are impacting backlogs that are scheduled within this calendar year. We're at a point now, there's not that much calendar year left. Remember that production guarantee window I talked about? There's not much left past that to get to the end of the year. Any cancellations that are hitting right now should be hitting the end of the quarter, which makes Q4 a concern. Q4 kind of soft. We've seen orders plummet and cancellations surge. You're looking at the order rate here for dry vans, reefers, and flatbeds. The bars are the cancellation percentages, and there's a pattern here. The reefer numbers are significantly low, given what we've seen historically, and the cancellation rates are pretty high for reefers. Flatbeds, we've had some high cancellation rates, but you're looking here at roughly, between these three charts, 85% of the industry, and that's why I select that group. I don't want to discount the other vocational trailers, but we are looking at the majority of the business. So the cancellations that we're seeing are really churning those fourth quarter commitments. Now, we may be at a point where we're returning to normal order season timing. Last year, things got pulled way forward because fleets, they wanted to get commitments. They couldn't get equipment when they wanted it from a timing standpoint. They figured they better get in line as fast as they could. That helped push those order surges that you see in all three of those categories in Q3 and early Q4 of 2018. And we normally see the surge in orders for this industry starting in December, building up through October, November, and December. So maybe it would be nice if we get to a normal order season timing, but we're still not hearing a lot of interest from the fleets as far as the orders that they're willing to post.